I'm Azfar Khalid, a senior lecturer in Nottingham Trent University. I work in the Department of Engineering, School of Science and Technology. And here, I'm here because we did a feasibility study on studying the mental stress factor for the occupational safety in the context of smart factory. So I was working on human-robot collaboration and different aspects of human-robot collaboration. So this feasibility comes in that way. And in this feasibility study, we have the PepsiCo International, who is our industrial partner. And we are working with them from the last many years on different aspects. So, yeah, just introducing, the idea came in the context of the smart factory, where in the futuristic sense that humans and collaborative robots may work together and for a common cause of producing together in a production line. So it could be that in those settings, it could be a problematic thing that may arise in terms of occupational safety, that not the physical accidents that may happen, because it's they are designed for, obviously these collaborative robots are designed for with the safety features, but we are thinking of the mental stress that will generate among the operators who are working with the collaborative robots. The reason being because these collaborative robots may be stronger, faster, but actually they don't provide any sort of visual, facial, or audio cue, which workers use these cues in order to understand the attitudes of other workers, what is happening in the production line, and do their normal jobs. But in terms of collaborative robots, this is not the case. So this may obviously generate more mental stress issue among the collaborating workers who will be working in these smart factories. So our focus was to see what sort of mental stress is being generated while working in such sort of settings. So we actually, in our lab, we created a smart factory setting with the robots and try to create a process, industrial process, and then work out the measurement of the mental stress using 3 different ways. The main way was actually the physiological measurement, and then integrated with subjective and behavioral measurements as well. So in this way, we are aiming to contribute towards the job guidelines, or towards aiming to create guidelines for the smart factory in terms of space design, collaborative space design, and collaborative job design, and within the stress limits, within the stress threshold limits. So, and obviously we will have the idea of working for different relevant standards in the future. So our main aim is basically on occupational health and safety, and main focus is on the mental health issues and the mental stress. We are looking for the stress patterns in the collaborating workers in terms of the that we vary the process variables and see what is happening with the mental stress who is collaborating in the smart factory setting. So our variables are different. Actually, you can see the task complexity. We were increasing the task complexity, production speed, the machine size or the robot size, or we can say payload capacity, and the duration of collaborative tasks. We had a few more variables, but actually we reduced the numbers of variables in our initial study, feasibility study, and we have the aim to increase the number of variables later on. So how we actually did this measurement, for the main physiological measurement, we use these 2 techniques, EEG and FNIRS. So EEG basically is the main physiological technique. It's basically detecting the brain's neural activity through the voltage electrodes by measuring the voltage difference. when we wear this EEG cap over the scalp. On the other side, we have FNIRS, functional near-infrared spectroscopy, which actually uses the principle of light. And the infrared light enters into the head and then photons scattered back, and then detected by a detector. And basically, it detects the variation in the hemoglobin concentration levels. So these two techniques we used, and we used together actually. So they are better in terms of collecting the information as compared to the individual modalities. So this is a known thing from the literature, and also we have the experienced people in this regard. So that's why we used these two techniques together. And then we have this data acquisition plan for our physiological measurements, where we had this experimental setting. You can see that we worked with two different sizes of robots. And then we used a Stroop task, psychometric true Stroop task, which I will define. And probably it was just like the sorting of cues based on the name of the colors. So basically we used a standard psychometric task, which is called the Stroop task. The Stroop task, in the Stroop task, basically what we do is that basically we were, the robot is collecting the cubes and then handing it over to the participants, and the participant was looking at the ink of the color and not the name of the color. So it actually puts more cognitive load to the participant. So and then sort out different number of different colors cubes according to their particular bins. So this was our previous information we had, that normally when we have the humans, when they go through this EEG measurement, basically there are a few frequency band powers which are generated, and they are generated according to depending upon the conscious level of the human. So the delta band power is generated when you are in deep sleep, okay? And then the theta wave band power is generated when when the people are in a little bit consciousness between a deep sleep and the full awakening. The alpha ones are normally produced or generated when the people sit as relaxed. If, for example, if you are just sitting relaxed, you will be generating alpha waves. And then if you are focusing on on solving some problem or doing some pattern recognition, then the beta waves are mostly generated, which are basically for the most of the industrial workers, we are expecting this. And beyond this 16 hertz or 20 hertz, it's basically the gamma waves, which represents basically the mental illness or some sudden excitement or confusion or something like that. So, so these sort of things which we already knew from our previous experience and literature. So we did, as a primary task, we focused on the cobalt Stroop task, and then we also, I have a few more. Okay. So, and then we had a secondary task as well. The secondary task was basically a random noise of different durations from 500 to 1000 milliseconds. And we actually, when we say that, okay, the task complexity, so the task complexity means that the primary task and the secondary task together. And so when we have a low task complexity, we have only the primary task. When we have high task complexity, we had both the primary and the secondary. And then this way, we designed our experiment. You can see that with episode 1, then rest, then we are asking the participant to do a certain, this is the NASA TLX questionnaire, a standard psychometric questionnaire, and then this way we are doing 8 episodes, starting from all lows to all highs. Okay. So, and then increasing the complex, the variables one by one. So these are the results where you can see that in the rest phases, we had the rest phases in between, and we found that in the rest phases, all the alpha waves were coming up. And then here you can see that where we see the gamma waves, where the participants were actually working on a very high, with really the stress, feeling the stress. So actually those were the episodes 2, 3, and 4, which were actually for the first time we increased the task complexity and then the speed. And there is one interesting result here. As you can see, this episode 8. In this episode 8, we actually increased everything. But you can see that in the result, actually the band power is low. It's gamma band power, but its quantity is low. It may reflect the level of, the characteristic of learning and fatigue also among the participants. So based on our AFNER's result, as you can see here that on the baseline side, when we were looking for, in this result, we were actually looking at the prefrontal cortex activation. This is basically the frontal part of the brain. When normally people do the pattern recognition thing, then this cortex activation happens. So what happens is that when we were doing the baseline task, no activation happened, not on the right side, not on the left side. And then, as you can see, the left prefrontal cortex activation is, we have a better results that when we increased the task complexity and then the speed, then we are getting very clear results. Again, this AFNERS is also showing the same thing in the task 8. We have got the high cortex activation, but not the highest. The reason being because of the learning and the fatigue issues. Based on our type of task loading, here you can see that we have, say, okay, low payload, high payload, low speed, high speed, low complexity, high complexity. In terms of speed and complexity, the results are very clear. That when we increase the complexity and the speed, the prefrontal cortex activation happens. But on the payload side, we are basically confused what is happening over there. Sorry. A similar situation with the heart rate. That on the rest episode, you can see we have lower heart rates when the people are working. We have higher heart rates. In the first 4 episodes, you can see that we have on average higher heart rates. And then on the next 4 episodes, we have a lower heart rate. The reason being, again, the effect of learning and fatigue, for example. So, yeah, so this is our final summary. So, in the 3 factors, actually, which we studied, we found that the task complexity was the most dominant factor for the stress, and then coupled with the speed. But we are not clear about the machine size, actually, if it is effective or not. We think that this neuroimaging, functional neuroimaging measurement, the quantification, it can quantify the mental stress. And then we are planning to continue this sort of study. And our actually industry partner is very much interested in what we are doing, and they have a match fund. They have sponsored a match-funded PhD for this sort of work, and then we are thinking of digitalizing this mental stress and well-being and occupational safety sort of stuff. And maybe you may see some future apps, Android-based apps, to see the early warning systems or so, and these sort of things. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.